Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League and welcome to a true British summer's day. Welcome to Silverstone and welcome to British Grand Prix qualifying. And the rain has descended upon the circuit. The heavens have well and truly opened and we should be in for a very exciting qualifying session ahead of tonight's 26 lap showdown. And crucially, one driver missing, in particular the reigning champion Grumio, not with us for tonight's Grand Prix after victories in two of the last three races. Grumio has brought the lead down to 14 points in the Drivers' Championship, but Dan's got a big chance now to try and reopen that advantage before Grumio returns, likely for the Belgian Grand Prix next week at Spa-Francorchamps. But on to the circuit, we're expecting 21 cars in tonight's Grand Prix. Then as a result, Imri has just joined us short of the start of qualifying, and Alvar has not picked his car, but hoping we'll be able to take control of the Aston Martin without too much fuss, to try and obviously not confuse things in terms of teams. But you can see Gaz Coleman out on circuit reserving tonight for Cott. He makes his way out for his first few laps as he round in through turn number 4 through the loop for the first time, and through to turn 5. A little short shoot leading out onto the Wellington straight. Obviously, the speeds not being expected to be as heavy in today's qualifying session thanks to the wet conditions, where the game was largely advising wet tyres for almost all of our runners. So I've seen a few drivers making a change, or most drivers making a change onto the intermediate tyres as Imri is into his Ferrari. So he'll hopefully join us on the track shortly for his first flying lap. And we're just waiting on Alvar to take control of the 21st car in the session. Hopefully the Aston Martin, hopefully the game doesn't put him in the Mercedes. Again, to not confuse things. But Grumio's seat left vacant in tonight's Grand Prix. And as I say, big chance for Dan to try and reopen that advantage after, of course, a DNF early on in Austria last week. The mechanical failure brought about the end of his challenge in that race very, very soon. So Dan can essentially reset things back to how they were with a victory today. He'll open the lead back up to 39 points in the World Championship. So things on the line then for Dan tonight, of course, for McLaren, as Mercedes sits 11 points behind. Again, a huge chance for the Super Mario Warriors of Dan in 10th to try and open things back up again in the standings. Of course, Haas now sitting in a fairly comfortable third place, 16 points in front of Red Bull now in P4. And Ferrari, thanks to Imri's charge to late first and second in his last two races, up into P5 in the standings. So Ferrari making gains, and with 10 points tonight, with Imri taking a 5th place finish or higher, to be able to cross the double-digit mark and get into triple digits in the Constructors for the first time this season. As Gaz comes through to start the first flying lap. Of course, Gaz can't score points as a reserve. Reserve rules, as always, apply in the RDL. See one of the Williams cars, Lucky Lambert, in through behind him. Of course, home race for the majority of drivers in the field tonight. We'll see if we can get a home winner in this Grand Prix. Obviously, you're looking at Grumio, the defending winner of this Grand Prix from back in season 20. And of course, won the reverse grid race as well, if memory, or rather, won the reverse circuit race, if memory serves, as well last season. It was a very dominant run there for the 11-time champion, but who will not go back-to-back, at least in tonight's race. So we'll see as to who takes the mantle in the meantime. Gaz towards the end of the first sector, 33.2 on the board as he heads into Brooklands for the first time on a flying run. And into the right-hander of Luffield. Of course, almost majority of corners, if not all of the corners of the circuit, have a name of some kind, such as the history of the old World War II runway that Silverstone was built on. As he goes in through Woodcote. Now the right-hander, really struggling for grip there as he makes his way down towards the fast right-hander of Cops down at turn number 9. Obviously not as fast today, had to lift off to get through there and avoid running afoul of the white lines waiting for you on the left-hand side. Of course, but down where the Grand Prix used to start, obviously Cops used to serve as turn 1 until the end of the 2010 season, if memory serves. And for the last sort of 15 years or so, Silverstone has stayed quite true to this same sort of layout. But down the hangar straight and towards Stowe, of course, the runway over on the right-hand side there, now obviously covered up by all the fans in attendance for today's race, as he runs in for the right-hander, and again, really struggling with that back end as he rides down towards Vale. Overtake line will be there, going in through turn 17. Comes out turn 18 onto the Hamilton straights. Complete the lap. Gaz Coleman first time on the board, 1:47.4. Lucky has had his lap deleted for track limits, so he won't get a lap in, but he set 1:47.8, so slower than Gaz thus far. As here comes TJ through to start his first lap. As Dan goes fastest, big lap there from Dan. 1:45.9 for the home hero. As he charges in through the first corner, in through Abbey for the first time. Or for the second time, rather, sorry. But 1:45.9, that's a big start to things. We'll see if Imri in particular can respond. Imri's going up towards turn number 3 now, towards Village for the first time. PJ Kelly slots quite nice in second place as AT goes faster still, 1:45.519. So not a lot in it, so less than a tenth there between AT and Dan, but Of course, Mercedes driver knowing that whatever he can do is try and help Grumio in his absence will definitely be of advantage to the Silver Arrows. And of course, a win for AT will do quite nice as well. Hasn't won since memory says back in the race at the reverse Zandvoort race last season. So it's been a while, about half a season or so since AT's last victory. So PJ there in third place for Audi. Of course, Audi sitting bottom of the Constructors' Championship thus far. Just 10 points to name now. 1 point back from Aston Martin. Those two were tied going into last week's Grand Prix in Austria, but Ericsson taking home a P10 finish did enough to get the Green Machines up 1 place over their German colleagues. So Audi now dead last, and PJ and Ethan need to find some serious point-scoring speed out of their R26. Well, the AMR 26 of Ericsson rides through Megert and Beckett, of course, somewhat gingerly paced compared to usual. So there goes Huff fastest, 1:44.2. That's a big chunk of time found there. And Websey goes in as well, so the Red Bulls immediately assuming 1 and 2 in the order. And of course, Websey has first time back since the race in Miami, so we haven't seen him for about a month or so. He's currently sitting in P13 in the Drivers' Championship on 16 points to his name, 6 points behind Lucky Lambo, next car in front of him. Lucky runs in P4 right now from his first lap, 1:45.252 as Imrie now goes fastest, and that should be the benchmark for everyone, 1:43.706 for the Ferrari driver. You see in there Charles Leclerc's helmet on the car, Leclerc who won the British Grand Prix in the real life 2026 edition of this race. So we'll see if that plays into anything at all tonight. Imrie, of course, has never managed to win 3 Grand Prix in a season. That could change with a good result tonight with the victory tonight. He's only ever managed to win 2 in a campaign, back in Season 16 and then in Season 20, just last season, victories in China and Singapore. And of course, with the victory in Spain just a few weeks in Barcelona, a few weeks ago, and the win early on in the season in Japan. So 6 victories to Imrie's name in his career, and looking for number 7 tonight on home turf. Dan pushed down to P5, of course. He was one of the initial pace setters there with the 1:44.3. Well, sorry, the 1:44.3 is the most recent time, but was one of the faster cars in the early going in the session. And now Evans starts to put some laps in. He's fallen down the order a little bit. Harrison into P2 there on the wet tyre, so clearly the difference between the inters and the wet is not too vast as of right now. Harrison sails off into Brooklands there, 1:44.118. The official gap to P1 standing at about just over 4 tenths. And Huff is just under half a second back from pole. But as he rounds the last corner to complete his next effort, it's going to be a 1:46, 2.4 seconds down, so losing time on that effort. PJ still in the 6th spot right now, still doing a fantastic job so far for Audi, and of course they need those points. Ericsson P7, that's Websey down to P8. Websey, of course, was P2 a few moments ago. Make that P9 as you see Lucky Lambert shooting to second place. And the wet qualifying definitely opens things up compared to usual. As Imrie peels off into the pit lane here to complete his first effort in qualifying. There's still 9 minutes to go. Just under 10 rather, so still plenty of time to see everyone get their laps in. And Alvar has put himself in a car, but he's put himself into the Mercedes, so that will be a minor concern. But of course, Alvar, as we know, is an Aston Martin driver, so he'll be scoring points for the Silverstone-based team. Of course, they're sort of the real sort of home race for those guys, given that their facility is quite literally just down the road from here. So Aston looking for something big tonight. See Hulls there on the Alpine, P14, had a disappointing debut in Austria, an 18th place in that Grand Prix. See the two Haas cars now jumping up. Curtis into P2, TJ in P3. 10th Cannon goes fastest. I think it's sort of getting to the point now where the intermediate tyres are the tyre of choice, and everyone starts to go faster and faster on them. So all of a sudden, we head to ourselves in a bit of rarefied air in terms of this qualifying session compared to others this season, where we might actually end up just seeing whoever gets the time in last might wind up on pole. But 10th Cannon, never before taken pole in the RDL. Could this be her day, perhaps? Or will we see anyone else go faster behind her? Of course, 2 Haas cars there. They've been fantastic in qualifying this season. Very much best of the rest. Huff now going faster still by a big 2.5 to 10th. So Huff finding a ton of time with this on a weekend where he really needs some points here. 52 points back from Dan in the Drivers' Championship. After retiring guttingly from the lead in Austria last week. Of course, was leading comfortably before an equipment failure then brought down his chances of victory. Went down as a retiree. So disappointing them for Huff in last week's Grand Prix and looking for a strong recovery with the win. So Dan's got his work cut out for him because we've got a number of contenders here who could put themselves in good positions. Dan's ended up still in the pit lane here and will bring himself in at the end of this run. He's done 3 laps on those inters. Gaz there in P11 as it takes out the straight mode. Bollard waiting on corner exit. Yellow flag out as he recovers himself. But currently in P11, but there's still 5 cars yet to come through and put lap times in. 4 of whom are out on the track. One of them being Alvar on the wet tyre, who's going in towards Stowe for the first time. Of course, 4 straight mode zones here at Silverstone in use. Down the Hamilton Straight, down the Wellington Straight, from Woodcote down towards Copse, and then the Hangar Straight as well. So 2 of the places used to be former DRS zones, but now we've sort of doubled up in terms of the opportunities to use the Active Aero on the back of these cars. As Alvar comes to the line, it's a 1:43.4. Good enough for P6 on those wet tyres. So clearly the wet tyres still have something compared to everyone else. But right now, majority of the field are on inters. So we're looking to see a lot of fast laps coming through here. I'd say Ethan, Cook, and Ben all still currently on track. Cotney yet to head onto the circuit. But I imagine we'll see him out within these final 7 minutes. Of course, Cook down to P6 in the Drivers' Championship, despite the repeated point scores in his last 4 Grand Prix that he started. The only one out of the last 5 he's missed being Monaco. It's his last 4 results being 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 8th. So he slipped down the order a little bit, but still scoring points. But with the results of Imrie and Harrison last week, who were promoted essentially a place or 2, thanks to Huff's retirement in the race, meant that they jumped him. But only 5 points covering those 3 drivers. So things could still turn around with a good evening for Cook tonight, as he guides his V-Carb through the first couple of corners on the Silverstone circuit. And the rain definitely doesn't look as heavy as it did earlier on, as 18 now goes fastest. He finds about a second or so on his previous effort. Half back down to P2 again. Webb's lucky in P3, Curtis P4, and 10th Cannon in P5. But 10th again, finding almost 8 tenths out of Beckett's. But pulls the car into the pit lane and letting go for fresh tyres for one last proper stab at pole position before the end of the session. See Alvar here going down towards Stowe himself. Behind him is the McLaren of Dan on its outlap. And who is the next car to the line? I believe that will be Alvar, sorry, but Alvar into the pit lane. So with Dan on his outlap, the mantle then falls to TJ, who's again outlap for him. JB, same thing. JB P15 right now. Best lap so far being a 1:47.992. So needs to find a big chunk of time here to get himself up the order. Of course, Williams down to 8th place in the Constructors' Championship, thanks to Cook's point scoring antics as of late. 20 points covering those 2, and Alpine just 5 points in front of V-Carb. So things looking quite close for them in the Constructors still. But as JB rounds the last few corners here to begin his effort, as Huff goes faster again. Huff 1:40.232. Good lap from the Red Bull driver again. 18 not finding time, guessing pitting this lap. Where is Dan? You see Cook into 3rd place there. Big lap, 1:42.606. And the grid's going to look, it might look very, very shuffled up here, as Webbsy now makes it a Red Bull 1-3. Harrison tops that still. Majority of cars only in the sort of first half of their laps here. The next car to come to the line will be, I believe that will be Lucky, who's on his outlap. So things then fall to the Red Bull, to the McLaren behind. Dan is now in P16 with a 1:44.387. He's got plenty of time to put a lap in, but I'd say it's probably his best shot now while his inters are still the freshest. But guiding the car gently through Maggott and Beckett. And through Chapel. He's had a lap deleted there. And he may have strayed onto the grass just slightly. And he was 3 seconds up, which wouldn't have been enough just yet to get himself up towards provisional pole. It would have pushed him a fair bit further forward. He'd have been likely in the top 4, given the gaps to P1 as it stands right now. But these intermediate tyres, the wet weather tyres in general, last a bit better in terms of grip for a qualifying run. So Dan doesn't need to pit and go again. He's obviously recharged his battery, and he's going again here. But needs to get a lap in, otherwise his task of getting himself towards the front would prove to be very difficult indeed. As TJ goes 2nd fastest. Imrie 3 seconds down in his first sector. I'm guessing backing off with the yellow flag. See his teammate, I believe, currently going through the grass in Beckett. And knocking out a Bollard again in the process. and pulling the car over to the other side of the circuit. That was quite a concerning move there from Gaz, but he's obviously get out of the way of his teammate behind. Imrie recharges his battery, set to go for another lap here. Ethan in the Audi is on a lap, but he has slowed down quite. I'm guessing he may have been the car caught the yellow flag for a moment ago, down in the first sector. Gaz in the pit lane, which means Ethan and Imrie have clear track in front of them. 10th Cannon down to P12 here. She was looking quite fast earlier on in the session. Needs to find some more time. Speaking of time, Dan has found a second and a half bit, but needs more than that. Williams up in front of him. JB into P5 right now. It's Lucky Lambert just in front, currently in P10 in the order, 142.746, as Dan's found 3.8 seconds now. The gap right now to P1 is 4.1 for him. Only a few tenths more to put himself back on top. Where is Huff? Huff's not back out in circuit yet, but I believe he should be heading out any moment now. Your top three as it stands right now, it's Huff, TJ, Imrie, but Dan could be about to gate crash it from P18 in a big way here, so long as he nails this last corner. 138, 139, 139.4 for Dan, and puts that McLaren up into P1 again. There's Huff out on circuit. The question is, has he got himself back out in enough time? Because he cut it awfully close here. He can't afford to make any mistakes on this particular lap. Majority of cars are already on their final runs out on circuit. Websy and Ericsson are both still in the pit lane. They're not getting any more times in this session. And obviously Gaz retired the car. TJ looking for the line now. Let's go big on this last run. And that was a reset from one of the Audi drivers. And that was very terrifying. I mean, short of the ghosting, I thought for a moment we were going to see a Haas go flying into the back of an Audi at speed there. But TJ is all safe and carrying on his way. Into the final minute now of this qualifying session and looking for something. And looking for just trying to get himself around to the line is Huff in particular. Dan is still on an effort. He's still in there behind Lucky, so I'm guessing not using too much time. Lucky in P4. He's a quarter of a second up on his previous effort. Dan is down 6 tenths, so I can't see him improving from here. Ben in behind on his outlap. Needs to get himself to the line pronto. Getting closer and closer to that checker flag. The yellow flag makes it unsure as to how long we've got left. And there's the checker flag. Huff has not made it round in time. But Alvar's got shot to P2 there. Big lap from Alvar. Lucky in third place. Who's the next car to the line? Next car through is... Well, we just see as soon as someone go through. You see PJ off the circuit. Curtis into P4. He was the next car through to the line. AT a second and a half up. Has he got anything left in the store? AT to P2. Big lap then for Mercedes. And so close to pole, but I think Dan may have it. Imrie is only up about a quarter of a second in his first sector. He's normally the one to keep an eye out for in qualifying. TJ in P3 there. Next car through is one of the V-carbs. Apologies. That is Cook who's crossed the line now. P16 for him. 10th Cannon into P4. She found big time that last lap. Harrison goes fastest. And TTRE Harrison puts himself on top. 139.1 on the board for Alpine. Where is Huff? Huff still got a lap in time, it seems. He must have started his lap then. So Huff's on a charge. He's up by almost a second. Where is Imrie? Imrie's around the last few corners now. Up to the line. Can he do anything to try and take pole away? He can't, but it's second place for him. Onto the front row, but Huff could still deny him. Huff and Cotney, the last two cars to come through. Cotney to the line. Goes P17. Huff in through the last few corners here. And back onto the Hamilton straights. Complete his effort. Can he put the car on pole at the last possible second? He can do it. Huff and Dobak takes pole at the very last moment with the last lap of the session there. And for a moment, I thought he hadn't made it, but there we go. Huff puts it on pole ahead of Harrison, Imrie, Dan, and AT, your top five. So the starting ones look actually quite typical here. Dan in P4, AT P5, TJ P6, 10th Alvar, Lucky, and Curtis round out your top 10. And qualifying then draws to a close. And whether we'll see any brighter weather in the Grand Prix, I have to wait and see. But for now, though, It's a matter of time before the British Grand Prix gets completely underway. So time to get the British Grand Prix underway here at Silverstone. About a minute away from the start of the formation lap, and things looking nice and dry. Sunny skies over the Silverstone circuit, and we should be in for an absolute belter of a Grand Prix. 26 laps back on the original layout after a reverse race last season. Grumio the defending winner, but Grumio not in the race tonight. So a different winner, leaving tonight's event, at least based on qualifying, to be a nice, wide-open competition, which is just the way we like it in the RDL. And of course, you look to Dan in particular as the man to watch, with the opportunity to try and get himself back up to that 39-point advantage he held 2 weeks ago at the end of the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix after the retirement in Austria last time out, but half on pole and looking for a second career victory after taking pole at the last possible second, the final lap of the session, and it was half who put the car on pole at the very end. He'll start alongside Harrison in the front row, Imrie in third place. So the top three awfully close here. And of course, you can't count out neither AT nor Dan behind him. The top five looking very, very tasty indeed. But we're in for an absolute cracker of a Grand Prix, as always, here around Silverstone. Just waiting now on those last few seconds before things get going on the formation lap. And hopefully the weather will stay nice and dry for us over the course of this Grand Prix. Give us absolute flat-out, no-holds-barred action over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. So half will lead Harrison and out onto the formation lap. In terms of starting tyres, you look at mediums for everyone in the field, minus Hulls and Cottony. Hulls making a second start in the RDL tonight and looking for a better one after the race in Austria last time out. A P18 run for him. And Cottony Goblin in the Cadillac. One of 4 drivers yet to register a point this season. He and Ben, the only 2 full-time drivers from the start of the season, team yet to score a point. Huff and Harrison on row 1, Imrie and Dan on row 2. Look for these two to have a strong start in particular. AT and TJ together on row 3. Of course, AT, the lone Mercedes in tonight's race. It's 10th and Alvar on row 4. Alvar, of course, an Aston Martin driver normally, but has been given the Mercedes by the game in terms of tonight's Grand Prix. So it will ride with the silver arrows, but score points for the Silverstone-based outfit. Lucky and Curtis together on row 5. Williams and Haas looking to do battle on the runway here today. JB starts in behind his teammate, directly behind him, P11. Hulls in P2, obviously making a second career start. It's Ethan and PJ, the 2 Audis, riding their R26s down to the first corner on the 7th row. Webbsy in P15, and looked to have a strong qualifying until late on when time started to come dropping like flies. Cook starts in P16, looking for a much better race than he had in last week's race in Austria. An 8th place finish is lowest of his last 4 Grand Prix, but still a point-scoring finish all the same. Cottony, as I say, P17, one of 2 starts on the hard tire, to try and go longer in the Grand Prix. Gaz in P18, reserving tonight for Cott. Ben in P19, Ericsson in P20. And of course, missing Grumio in tonight's Grand Prix, and missing Obsessed Gamer as well in the other Cadillac. So things about to get very, very interesting, as they always do around the birthplace of British speed, the birthplace of Formula One, the host of the first ever Grand Prix. And looking here, as always, to get some good competition in. And you see, look at these two on the second row, raring to get underway. There's this sort of quite aggressive on the two cars in front, being up to the grid. It's two experienced, it's two sort of more experienced drivers here. A veteran in Dan, and Imre still obviously quite fresh in his career after a couple of seasons. Relatively experienced compared to the driver starts on his right. And Harrison and Huff, both these drivers making their first full-time starts this season. So two essential rookies in that respect, but plenty of experience underneath them. And Huff looking to make an impact here from the early going from pole position. Harrison still looking for that first career victory. The British Grand Prix is about to get underway. Round 11 of the championship here from Silverstone. Lights out, foot to the floor, and we are racing here in the British Grand Prix. Good start from Huff, jumps over Harrison immediately towards the first corner. Imre around the outside as they go into Abbey for the first time. He leads away over Dan, 4th place, ATP 5, 10th Cannon into P6. Good start for her. TJ to her inside to go into Village for the first time. It's Huff in front, commanding over Harrison, and everyone keeps it nice and tidy, but everyone jostling for position here, as they would back in the old British Grand Prix host Aintree a long time ago. Riding down towards the Harrison Straight for the first time. And it is the Wellington Straight, sorry, and Harrison and Imre side by side now as they go into Brooklands. Imre to the inside, and the Ferrari jumps into second place, and now has a chance to take on Huff for the race lead. Imre getting quite aggressive on the race start, taking full advantage to the stricken Alpine, and up into the second spot as they ride out of Luffield and into Woodcote down towards Cops for the first time. It's all stations go in the midfield here as Cook and Ben making early moves. These two become fantastic on the first lap in recent races over the course of this season, and Webb's making a pass on Alvar now as they go into Cops for the first time. You see PJ moving around. He's got Cook in behind him. Hull's not too far back either. And you see Gaz in the back leading Ericsson and Cotney towards Maggott and Beckett. PJ into P12. Cook into P15. Hull's fighting for that position. And down the straight they go. Down the hangar straight towards Stowe for the first time of the 26 laps in this Grand Prix. And again, it's all Huff out front. Imre still second. Harrison still third. Dan still fourth. PJ losing 2 places to go into the right-hander for the first time. Make that 3 places as Cook finds way by. From P12 down to P16 now as PJ appears to be having early troubles here. Not a good start for Audi in this Grand Prix. Both cars were on the 7th row, P13, P14. It's now P16, P17 as Hull's not done yet. Makes his move on Alvar. There goes Cook following him through and trying for a second for a move at turn 1, but not to be for the moment. But he might find a way in through turn 2 and towards 3. It's going to be quite tight here. Cook finds the inside on Hulls as they go into the right-hander of Village and looking for the loop at turn 4. Hull's on the inside this time and should pull away on corner exit, but Cook better drive off around the outside, better traction, and going on to Wellington Straight for the second time. It's Cook in control of P12, but Hull's perhaps not done yet. And up front, Imre quite close to Huff, looking for the race lead, as it was last week in Austria. These two jockeying for position fairly early on, as you see Lucky there, going to wire the line in through Luffield, and you see 10th going for a lower one, trying to make the move on AT, trying to close back in, but nothing doing for 10th for the time being, but still good for McLaren. Having both their cars in the top 6 means they'll score more points than Mercedes as things go, regardless how many AT scores, unless AT, of course, can win the Grand Prix. Realistically, that's their best shot in that regard. But Huff has got Imre all over him as they ride through Maggott and Beckett for the second time. And I dare say we could see that Ferrari gunning for a move for the race lead on the hangar straight. Straight mode in play, overtake in play as well for Imre, but completely depleting his battery in the first lap and a half. Same for both cars here. Imre makes the move to the inside. First chance for the race lead. There he goes underneath. And Imre looking for P1 as Huff goes around the outside, keeps his foot in it. And the 4-car train appears to be breaking up again as Imre to the outside going into Vale for the second time. And it's Imre to the inside. It's very tight in these last few corners. But out of turn 17, it's Imre who takes the lead of the British Grand Prix. 2 laps into this thing, but Huff, again, not finished just yet. Dan fastest lap behind them. Keep an eye out for him as things go by. Everyone getting fastest laps here. So one for Lucky, one for Cook as well. So everyone's still quite quick here in the first phase of the race. As Harrison making the pass now on Huff, whose lead is quickly being left in the dust as they ride through turns 3 and 4. And we get a second to breathe here as Huff again clears Harrison, maintains P2 for the time being. He's got overtake now and a bit more battery to spare, but Harrison's got other ideas. There goes Harrison to the inside, making his pass from the left into P2, and Dan following him through as well. Huff is being left to bits here as they ride through Brooklands for the third time. And Huff had to get himself back on his line, almost forced down wide there going in through Luffield. Again, wide the line from the Red Bull. Harrison will be looking for the lead off of that Ferrari sooner rather than later. There goes to the outside, and a very early move there as Imre is disconnected. And that'll be gutting for him. Imre losing all 3 places towards Cops. Things turn their heads just like that here at Silverstone. And down into P3. Imre jumping away fast here and was in the race lead, but now finds himself going down as AT makes his move to the outside, going in through Maggott and Beckett. Awfully tight there. Imre hangs onto it, or his AI rather hangs onto it. AT keeps it steady. and into P4 now, but Harrison leads the Grand Prix. 3 race leaders in just 3 laps. As 10th makes the pass, Imrie dropping places like flies here as he gets that down towards Stowe. He's almost going 3 wide with both Curtis and Lucky, but gets himself away nice and smooth, and Curtis and Lucky come away unscathed too. Imrie falling to the field here, rejoins in what looks like P9. Has to recover himself before JB can get moving as well around the outside into the last few corners, and JB squeezing Imrie ever so slightly to go into the last few turns. And out onto the Hamilton straight again. Imrie down to P10, and with a lot of work to do now in this Grand Prix. And my, how things can change in just a lap, just here in general in league racing, and no less at Silverstone, as Harrison now assumes control of this race. Huff in second, down in third. We take a second just to sort of get ourselves back in order, because that was a very hectic first few laps. It's not done yet, because Alvar's trying to go for a move on Ethan, but Ethan holds his nerve around the outside and maintains the place. 10th making the pass on AT. 10th trying to join that train, down to P2. Now made a pass on Huff for the second spot. And let's not forget, Dan's got perhaps the most on the line in this Grand Prix. If he can win this Grand Prix, it'll get him back up to that 39-point lead that he held prior to Austria. If Grumio's absence, he's got a big chance to try and push forward in the championship once again. And I think Harrison will know that, of course. These two have fought for the lead in previous Grand Prix before. You think back to China in the very second round of the season. Of course, these two are fighting in arguably be much worse conditions. And it was Dan to come out on top as Imrie starts to make moves again, making a pass on TJ for P9. So Imrie back in it, and the race not over from just yet, but TJ with a fantastic exit there. And Imrie really down on speed on corner exit. And down to P11. Here's another disconnect. And things are going worse and worse for Imrie here as he falls down to P13. Alvar and PJ be next in line. As Lucky Lambert up front makes the pass for P, so side by side with Curtis for P6 here. Haas versus Williams as it was early on from the race start. And Haas wins this time out. The 2 Williams cars sandwiched in between the 2 Haas's here. There goes Curtis to the outside, 10th going through turn 2. Top 2 have pulled away here, or rather top 3 have still pulled away. Harrison still being chased by Dan and Huff. 80 leads the train behind. Lucky and 10th side by side. JB and TJ equally going at it. And Mike Cook try and get involved in the inside 2. Nothing to him for the time being. Imrie down to P13. Recovers the car. Still about 3 seconds in front of PJ as it stands right now. Down to P13, about a second, or a half second rather, off of Webbs. It's Alva makes the pass, or makes the move down the inside, looking for that position. It's PJ who has it, but goes a bit wide off his line in through left field, but defends quite nicely from Alvar to ensure he can't make a move on corner exit. Ben in behind it is Ethan. He tries to go for the attack. Can't do it. Ericsson looking to get away from being the tail end of this train. Cottony in P19 and Gaz behind him dead last right now. Difficult day for Ferrari so far. But in Grumio's absence, it's largely these 3 seem to be doing battle the most. The reason why they're part of your top 4 in the Drivers' Championship. And they've really got it in the sort of mid-points here as Curtis and Lucky going side by side through Stowe. Lucky wins out on this occasion. Curtis falls in behind. 18 to P6, 10th P7. But JB making a challenge. Bit of contact there to go in through turns 16 and 17 through the Vale chicane. And on corner exit, JB into P7 now. Imrie in the pit lane, making a change early on here. I'm not sure if he's rejoined or not. We know he's rejoined. But yeah, changed him for Imrie early on onto a set of hard tyres. First car in the pit lane. No damage done to that Ferrari, so not a stop in that sense, but down's dead last here. And TJ losing spots like flies, and he's down to P12 here. No damage done to that Haas either, but I guess he must have had a poor corner or two. JB dives to the inside of AT. They're going into Brooklands. Mercedes versus Williams. Both Merc-powered cars, and 10th, a third Merc-powered car in that McLaren, running behind as they go towards Woodcote. It's AT who gets himself back out in front, but 10th, can she try and challenge JB towards Copse? Can JB get there first? Makes his move to the inside. He's there. And again, fantastic racing through Copse. But AT comes roaring back at him again. It's just consistent back and forth here at Silverstone. It's fantastic to watch in these the early laps of the Grand Prix. We're still only 6 laps into this thing. It's been going for a lot longer than that. But it's going to be a fast and furious Grand Prix, to put it mildly, as Curtis goes to the outside of Lucky down towards Stowe. Looking like a fantastic Grand Prix for Williams thus far. There's a 3-wide move from Hulls. And Hulls into his second start, showing what he can do, strutting his stuff through Stowe. As Cook pulls back to his outside, JB behind both cars here. And has lost out massively in that fight with with AT in 10th. But Hull's in P9 there and looking a lot more racing than he did last week, which is always good to see. We'll see what these guys have up their sleeves next. In terms of the race to lead, things are looking quite consistent as they were a few laps ago. Harrison still leading both Dan and Huff to no real challenge. Dan side by side now with Huff through Brooklands. Huff making a challenge on the Red Bull on the outside. It's very tight and Huff may emerge ahead, to be fair. A bit wider on corner exit. They're practically dead even there as they leave Luffield. But Huff wins out towards Woodcote and now can set his sights on chasing down Harrison for the lead. Dan falling away a little bit here. Curtis in P4 keeping Lucky at bay. 10th Cannon rather closing up to these guys. As Hulls gets the first penalty of the evening. 3 seconds, multiple warnings. And JB will be looking at that and being delighted with that because it means he can now try and gain a place through penalties. But I'm sure he'd like to try and gain it on track instead, which we know he can do. And PJ joining Hulls very quickly there. It's the second drive to do it. JB around the outside there of Hulls, hanging on to it. AT to the inside of Cook here. And Cook off circuit. But makes the pass. So settling into a somewhat comfortable rhythm here as Harrison in complete control of this race. See the fight between Huff and Dan opens up a little bit, but Huff has now found himself right in the tail of the Alpine, and this could be a potential pass for the lead. These two start on the front row and are going at it themselves. Down the stretch towards Brooklands they go. Huff's on the inside. Imrie fastest lap. Pace is still there for that Ferrari driver. Yellow flags out down at turn number 4. That's one of the Haas cars. Another car around. TJ on the inside, off into the inside wall. Recovers the car and will carry on his way. No call for any sort of VSC or full safety car. Gaz in the pit lane for a set of hard tyres. So Ferrari now tail end of the field. Imrie as it stands, 29.6 seconds off the front of the field, and it's still gaining time. I'm guessing his plan is to try and gain as much as he can while being on the fresh tyres from that first stint, and then getting it all back later on when everyone else comes in for their first stops, and more likely only stops at the Grand Prix. But I'm thinking Imrie may have to play a 2-stop in this race. Curtis around the outside of Lucky. These two still fight to go for P4, and 10th closing in, trying to get involved. Lucky takes things without question there. Cook in behind 10th. JB not far behind either, sort of dragging along the second half of the train. AT, Hulls, then Websy. But Hulls currently won't score a point thanks to that penalty. As there goes Cook to the inside of 10th into 1. Side by side through Abbey and through Farm and towards Village. And Cook around the outside. Takes away P6. 8 points now for V-Club going their way. That will, I mean, without Harrison in the lead, that would move them clear. Speaking of going for the leader, it's Huff and Harrison side by side now through Luffield. And Huff again finds the outside, can get a better exit. I think he might be able to this time. Uses overtake and drawing alongside Harrison side by side for the lead now towards Cops. Will anyone back out? Imrie disconnects for a third time. Huff to the inside, switches back for the outside towards Maggots. And Dan trying to get involved too. Curtis that's P4. Lucky same thing. Makes it stick this time. Williams' car back to 4th place. Harrison reassumes control, but how long can he hold it for? Because Huff and Dan are clearly about and in a very racy looking mood. Curtis, big head of steam towards Stowe. Makes the pass nice and easy on Lucky now. Cook in 6th place. Looking to try and get involved as he finds the inside on 1. Can he try and take 2 now? Very close in the brakes, and for a moment I thought he'd try and go for it, but not to be from HB Cook, but hangs on to piece 5 all the same. 18 to the pit lane here. Well, actually, whether we might see a 2-stop in this Grand Prix, not too sure. And given the fact that you'd be looking at these guys to pit this early on medium tyres, they run the hards, perhaps could go to the end. I doubt they go to the end from here. It'd be awfully close. But Imrie through the last few corners here. In front, or he's got TJ in front. Where is AT? AT is there, and Imrie is already out in front of him. As Gaz Coleman gets another penalty. It's been a tough race for Ferrari so far because Imrie's got a plan in mind. Dan closing in on Huff, down towards Copse again. We're on lap 10 of this Grand Prix, nearing the halfway stage. Huff closes the gap a bit more, and Harrison pulls away slightly from Dan, but the McLaren with a big head of steam there makes the pass, makes one pass, makes two passes into Maggott and Beckett. What a run there from Copse to Maggott. From Dan, he leads the way. P3 to P1. What a move that was. But it's not over yet, though, because he's lost his battery. And here come both Harrison and Huff potentially for the race lead. Huff follows Harrison through. Harrison back to the lead. Huff to the inside. Into Stowe they go, side by side for the top spot. Harrison holds his nerve and hangs on to it. P1, but down into the pit lane now. First of our three leaders into the box. Leaving Harrison and Huff to fight by themselves for P1. More takers here. 10th also into the pit lane. And Curtis, same thing. Cook stays out. So, double stack them from McLaren. And 10th caught for a split second there on the way in. Still a strong stop, and she's away. And will emerge just behind JB. Imrie into the last few corners here. Where's he going to come out compared to these guys? Curtis at pit exit now. Imrie just going past. So it's made a bit of time back, it seems, then, that Ferrari. But the one stop is no way a possibility for him. Whereas, I mean, I'm not sure if it could be for everyone else. We'll have to see. Especially these guys going longer on their medium tyres. And the hard tyre runners can probably try and do it. So Hulls and Cotton need to keep an eye out for. Cotton needs P10 now for Cadillac. Of course, yet to score a point all season. Of course, Cadillac's only chance of points in this Grand Prix. That team currently sits in P9 in the championship. Of course, Obsessed Gamer into P4 team with 2 straight 6th place finishes. Not in tonight's race, but hopefully we'll see him back with Belgium in 7 days' time. Curtis and TJ, both of them, TJ's yet to make a stop. Obviously, he's recovered himself from the yellow flag he caused earlier on. And now finds a stop behind his teammate. As in comes Harrison. Huff will not join him. Huff stays on the circuit. Harrison in after 11 laps on those medium tyres. And Lucky Lambert joining him, but Cook staying out. So the two sister Red Bull teams looking to go a bit more aggressive on the medium tyres. Rather, looking to make them last a bit longer if they can. Connie stays out, obviously on the mediums, up to P6 here. Dan out in front of Harrison. So it's down now to Huff as to where he comes out. Huff currently 7.3 to the good over Cook. Still getting some of the V-carb, so may have still have some pace left in these things. But I'm guessing we'll likely try and stop now. 22 seconds from Huff to Dan. And Harrison not far behind either. 29 to Curtis, 31 to Imrie. 18 JB side by side behind them. 80 wins out, and Matt can move on Imrie now. Makes his pass to the right-hand side towards Copse. He'll get there nice and easy. Big gains from AT, but Imrie will try and follow in his wake. As 10th makes the pass on... 10th unlucky about making passes on TJ. It's been a disappointing race for him so far after the yellow. As Huff finds the pit lane. Red Bull. HB Cook stays out. Hull stays out. Websy is in. Ethan also in. Courtney stays out. Yellow flag's out. On the main straight, that is Hull's as that's sort of off. He's recovered himself. Where is Huff? Huff put his hard tyres on. But I think may lose out in the race lead here. Dan fastest lap. And Dan looking for a net P1 back. He'll take it with ease. Huff at the pit exit will emerge in front of Curtis, but back behind Harrison and Dan. Dan has dispatched Connie as technically one of the back markers in this case. Harrison needs to make that pass as well before Dan can get out of dodge. There he goes to the left-hand side, nice and easy. Move the Alpine into 4th place, but a net P2 once Hulls and Cook make their stops. But Cook, it seems, trying to split the stints. At least I'm guessing that's the plan. I can't see why he at this point go longer on the hards than the mediums. Huff passing Cotney now and finds himself just about within that 1 second range for overtake. Curtis disconnects from P7. He's got a few seconds to 80 behind, so shouldn't lose any places, I don't think. But might find himself embroiled in combat upon his return. 80's got JB right up his chuffs to go into Maggott and Beckett. Lucky equally has 10th and Imrie right behind him. So the Williams cars very much with their hands full in this Grand Prix thus far. In comes Cook. And Hulls will join him. So Dan will take the lead, it seems, with Harrison and Huff right behind. And the battle starts over again. JB and AT side by side. JB wins out into P8. There goes Lucky to the outside of the Silver Arrow now. Curtis rejoins and will maintain an advantage of about a second and a half to JB, who will likely still need to contend with AT coming back at him. Lucky then 10th than Imrie. Cook will rejoin here down the field. Down into P11. Still not a bad place to be in by any means, given he's on the freshest tyres. Hulls onto a set of hard tyres. Sorry, Hulls onto a medium. So apologies. So he'll be on the faster tyre in this case. Cook's got the freshest in the field. So only Cotney Goblin yet to find the pit lane this Grand Prix for Cadillac. Sits in P4 right now, 5.6 in front of Curtis, who will of course reassume that position once he pits. And things carry on up front for the second half here. Dan, Harrison, and Huff. Normal business is restored. And the fight for the lead will carry on once again. Harrison with a particularly good run through Maggott and Beckett's. Around the outside. Good pass made there from Harrison to retake the race lead on lap 14. 80 and 10th side by side. And Lucky trying to get involved too. Lucky takes one, Lucky takes two. But 80 not finished yet. Back down the inside there. Very late on the brakes from the lone Silver Arrow in this Grand Prix. And around the outside goes 80 for the last corner. It's still awfully tight here. And I hope we can get somebody, or at least two cars, sort of side by side to the end of the race like that. That's fantastic to watch. Cotney Goblin's into the pit lane, so now everyone's made their stops. Cotney onto a set of medium tyres. Is there an outside chance at points for that team? That's the question. Huff and Dan side by side again. Remember, Dan, of course, needs this victory to maximise himself back into 39-point territory. 10th cannon in the middle of the train here. The two Williams cars going to try and pull away. Cook to the inside of AT as they head through Luffield. Dead even as they head towards Woodcote and towards Copst again. Imrie about 4 seconds behind these guys, and it's got Hulls in behind on the fresh medium tyres. JB, of course, without penalty to think about. One of 6 drivers to have attained one so far in the first half of this race. Everyone's on 3 seconds, though. No one on 6. As 10th closes the gap again on Lucky. Huff fastest lap. Second place right now. Gaz, another penalty. Second one of the evening for him. And so there with TJ right now. HB Cook fastest lap. Pace is still very much there for the V-Carb driver. Look at the runner speed. Huff is coming with towards Brooklands. Won't go for it, but it's still there and about. Down towards Copse. sort of the enigma here at Silverstone is sort of the only thing I really think of here is that there's, thanks to the battery, there's so many places you can now go for a move, as Huff goes for a very dicey one there on Harrison, who moved in behind at the first possible second and was very fortunate not to have his front wing lopped off there. But there's so many opportunities to make a move around a circuit like this that making a pass opens yourself up immediately to being overtaken again almost immediately. So plenty of battery required to have good defense around this circuit. There's 10 laps to go. Lucky and JB side by side. Lucky wins out on this occasion. Curtis trying to keep himself away from these guys as much as he can. He's 2 seconds over the two Williams cars right now. Cook in P7. 10th in P8. AT P9. Hull still hanging on to P10 right now, but Imrie is within 3 seconds. Equally, that's Websy right behind him. Big head of steam there from Websy, who backs away from him. Nice and clean this time. Huff leads this Grand Prix still. Harrison will want it back. Down about 3/4 of a second behind Harrison right now. And perhaps the car under the most pressure will be the one in danger of falling off this little train if he's not careful. As Gaz finds the pit lane here for his second stop of the Grand Prix. Onto another set of hard tyres. Harrison, a bit of Lyco there as he heard him lift off towards Stowe to maintain battery. There's JB closing in on his teammate. No such thing there as lifting and coasting for JB. Goes charging on through. Goes off circuit a little bit there though. That'll allow Cook a chance on the outside. Cook dispatching both Williams cars. It's been some fantastic overtakes in this Grand Prix here. We've still got 9 laps to go. And I dare say we could be in, I'm hoping we could be in for a grandstand finish here at Silverstone. Imrie in the pit lane, the second stop for him. Ben retiring the car in the pit lane. And Ben had a evening largely outside of the points here. Goes down as the only retiree of this Grand Prix so far. Of course, a late safety car will bring everyone closer together. It's a real barnstorming finish. But for now, though, these three still perfectly content to go at it for the lead by themselves. It's 10 seconds back to Curtis in P4 and 2 from there to Cook in P5. He's trying to get rid of JB and Lucky behind. 10th, then 18th, and Hulls. So these three in front here, as we near the last 8 laps of the Grand Prix, I'm guessing the one stop is the play for everyone here. But how close will tyres get in terms of wear? And how will it impact that sort of late fight for the victory? I'll say it's been a fast-paced Grand Prix here. And Harrison, speaking of fast pace, is coming out half with a big head of steam. But again, it's holding his ground, holding his line. Dan trying to close in Harrison, but to no avail. They're all single file here. And everyone seems to have sort of settled things down the field here. No real position battle for position, save for up front as things stand right now. We should see things heat up. Of course, you look at these two in the first 2 places as full-time drivers. 19 combined starts full-time between them. And then you look at the driver who sits behind them in 3rd place, Daniel Aaron. For him, 217 starts. And while, of course, Huff has been here for over a season or so, fighting in a reserve role, he's definitely holding his own right now and contending for race victories week on week. Ethan passing Websy now to P11. Imrie then behind TJ. It's been a difficult and largely disrupted day for Ferrari. We're on lap 20 now this Grand Prix, nearing the final 6. So right again through Brooklands and Luffield. Lucky keeping these guys at bay right now. Cook, then 10th, then JB. There goes Cook to the inside. And Cook will be able to at least jump Imrie in the Drivers' Championship, moving back into P5. Harrison out front in 2nd place will add to his tally. Up to 101 for the season. Well, enough for him to try and jump Huff yet. So 6 more laps and these guys cross the line in a moment. And we'll see if anyone goes for that move anytime soon. Ericsson past obsessed there. Let's have a look at your position change here with just 6 laps to go. Your biggest gainer in this Grand Prix has been HB Cook. Up 11 places from his P16 starting spot. Ericsson up 8 places from the tail end. Imrie down 14, TJ down 12. These two are particularly tough days compared to everyone else. So these guys all holding their cards fairly close to their chests right now. No one waiting to make that first move, but to my mind, despite it obviously the car up front being the place you want to be on the last lap, these two behind will have overtake, and that will make things a lot more difficult for Huff. But at the same time, you're just sort of thinking, when it comes to that charge down the hanger straight on the last lap, where do you want to be? Do you want to be I'm guessing the best place to be would be the car in second, because Harrison will have overtaken 1 car in front of him to pass, whereas Dan will have 2 cars to pass. Or needs to keep himself close to that 2nd place car. Courtney there in P16. Alvar currently chasing PJ for position. Audi 1 place outside of the points. If Ethan can try and close that gap and get himself close enough to holes, to try and get himself within that 3-second range, is a big ask. Penalty situation as it stands right now. Sorry, I scrapped that. Hull's got 6 seconds, apologies. Yes, he's got 6. So Ethan only needs to get a full second here to try and close that gap down, but Hull's on the medium tyre is going to make life very difficult for Ethan unless his tyres start to wear out. Oh, slow for Lucky here as he rounds turns 17 and 18 and losing 2 spots. Lucky down to P8. 10th up to P6. Cook by himself. Well, I was about to say by himself in P5, but it's now currently hunting Curtis for the 4th spot here. There goes Harrison to the inside of the lead here. Into Brooklyn, side by side for the first time in a fair few laps. Harrison looking for it. Half holds his own on the inside. Cook might try and go for a move on Curtis, and equally, we could see a change in hands of the race lead. And things might be starting to heat up now. This could be the point. Cook to the outside of Curtis as they go towards Copse. Won't make his move just yet. The more these two fight, the more it might try and reel 10th, JB and Lucky back in. 80's fallen away. Hull still in P10. Ethan 7/10 away from those points for Audi. Try and tie Aston Martin back up again. That one needs to bank on Hull's getting one more penalty. Five cars in one shot there. There goes Cook looking around, trying to find something, but to no avail. 3 laps up front to go. He goes to the outside. There he goes. Nice and easy for Cook. Into 4th place. It's another big gain for him. And up 12 spots. The only driver to have gained more than 10 places in this Grand Prix. Second best has been Ericsson up 8. And 16 seconds off the lead here. Best of the rest right now, but can Curtis come back at him? Does the Haas driver have anything left? Harrison to the inside again, going for the lead, and takes it this time nice and easy. Harrison in front. You see Half sort of darting around side to side, trying to find an opening. Nothing doing. And he only got boost mode, no overtaking play, but still got a decent head of steam here. Blue flags will be in place shortly. I just think Gaz needs to move out of the way for these guys. And Hull's around AT. Yellow flags out. Car off. TJ around at the last corner. Gets the car back on circuit. Keeps moving. And no risk of a late VSC or safety car. Well, especially not a safety car. VSC perhaps, but nothing. Dan a full 3/4 of a second off of Huff right now. Harrison here is just 2 laps away from his first RDL victory as a full-time driver. Of course, made a big splash by winning that reverse grid finale last season, but was down there as a reserve, so was not credited with the win. And yet, today might be the day. Half in behind though, trying to make something happen. Dan's going to need to save some battery and close in. The question is, are these two out here showing their hands a bit too early? Half full head of battery, full bit of battery, full head of steam. Both cars deploying. Half looks to the outside. Slides a bit there through Brooklands. And Dan is falling away and falling away fast here. He's going to need to maintain overtake at the very least to have a chance going to the last lap. But he's falling out of that 1 second range now. He'll need to bank on these two fighting again to try and close that gap before Vale. Half retakes the lead on the inside, in towards Maggots. Yellow flag again goes down. There's a slow Alpine there. That's Hull still on the back straight. And Ethan goes charging through. And Ethan will take the point for Audi if he can hang on to it. Well, he should do now that everyone behind has got penalties. Save for Alvar, who's too far behind to have a real impact. Coming up now on a 1 lap to go. Huff leads things. Harrison will get overtake. Dan is in behind both of them and was almost at risk of losing overtake completely. He's going to need something big to get around these two. There's extra 10 points. The gap as it stands in the World Championship, 29 points. So over a race win in front for Dan. As they start the 26th and final tour. As Huff gunning for his second career victory and Harrison looking for his first. It's been a magnificent race here at Silverstone, and we might still get one last gasp finish. Huff, of course, who took pole at the last moment in qualifying and looking to convert it to victory. But as Harrison chases him down towards Brooklands, he's going to need something here. It looks like he's low on fuel, which could be a concern for him come the Hangar Straight. He needs to close in and close in fast. Huff's also got plenty of battery. I think Huff might have this one but it could still change. 6/10 the gap with half a lap to go. Dan is out of it. I think third place will be his best showing here. Yellow flag again, and that is AT around. AT falls from the points. Hull's back into P10, but will likely lose to Ericsson. And a spin there for AT on the last lap will deny Mercedes any points in this Grand Prix. Half up front, though, is leading the way. Harrison closing in as best he can, but to no real avail. He's going to run out of race track and run out of room. Curtis passing Cook into Magnus Beckett. We'll keep an eye on that when these guys come to the line. Huff towards the last few corners here. It's been a fantastic showing all afternoon from Huff. As he comes through for his second career RDL victory, Huff and Dobak wins the British Grand Prix. Harrison second, Dan third, and the fight carries on here as Cook has now jumped over Curtis for P4 again. Still yellow flags as AT is struggling around the circuit, it seems. And the whole midfield, the whole mid-pack fight for best of the rest is going to be Cook who wins out. Curtis behind for P5. Then 10th, JB the penalty there. Lucky, then Ethan. Double points for Williams, their home Grand Prix. Great race for those two. Ethan. Oh, there goes Hull's off circuit. Hull's the puncture. And there it goes. And AT, same thing. That'll explain it. AT puncture on the front left. Hull's puncture on the front left. Both cars on differing tyres. And the chances at points have gone completely for Huff. Ethan will take 2 points. Ericsson takes 1, which again ties Audi and Aston Martin once again, this time with a point extra each. Alvar P11 in the end, PJ P12, Websy P13, Cotney P14, Imrie across the line in P15, only just over Hulls there. AT, then TJ, then Gaz, and Ben goes down as your only DNF, but Huff wins it. Fantastic race from these three in particular, going at it all Grand Prix long. Dan was thereabouts, but just couldn't manage it in the end to come up and challenge these two upstarts who have very much broken into the top echelon of performance in the RDL this season. And Huff gets what he needed. Will close a big chunk of points on Grumio and 10 on Dan. 42 points with the gap for him in the World Championship. 29 from Dan to Grumio. So the lead goes back up again. Albeit not as much as Dan might have hoped, but a third place finish, still a very respectable result all the same. But Huff the winner. Scotsman triumphs on English soil. And there won't be many more victories more satisfying than that, but an all-British podium in that respect. Huff, of course, representing Scotland. And the winner here today. Celebrations begin then. Again, 3 different constructors on the podium. This time Red Bull, Alpine and McLaren. P16 to P4 for Cook, let's not forget. He's had a fantastic race in his own right. And I could be more deserving, perhaps, of a driver of the day. Hopefully get a word in with her about it. Cook in P4, Curtis P5, and it's 10th Cannon in P6. Lucky in 7th, JB, Ethan, and Ericsson round out your points. Alva behind in P11, PJ P12, then it's Websy, Connie, Imrie, Hulls, AT, and TJ and Gaz your finishers. And Ben goes down as the only retiree of this Grand Prix. But a very difficult race for a number of teams, a number of drivers. But yeah, I mean, that was a very, very enjoyable race. Hopefully get more than a few points of view here, especially from these guys up front. And I want to get one with Cook too. I mean, he had a fantastic race, perhaps his best in quite some time, and definitely well deserving of that P4 finish. Wowzers! Silverstone once again has not disappointed, and hopefully we'll get a few words in, as I say. Post-race interviews then on the verge of getting underway here at Silverstone after a delightful Grand Prix to the absolute least. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And our race winner has arrived back into the commentary box. Huff, you are the winner of the British Grand Prix, mate. Congratulations. But, I mean, Harrison and Dan, those two made you work for it, didn't they? Half, can you hear us, buddy? On mute, I believe. Have to bear with just for a moment here.
Hello.
There he is. Right, yeah. Race victory, Huff.
Sorry.
Congratulations. But yeah, Harrison and Dan, they made you fight for it, didn't they?
Yeah, I could feel my heart pounding at the end. I was just like all the concentration into getting that win was a tough one. I didn't realize like how hard the battery management was going to be, so it was almost a guessing game to see who had the most or who had the least. So I was just it really helped with the way I was going through corners. I had a bit higher wings, so I could kind of coast through corners a little bit easier than them. So it seemed to help out.
I mean, obviously the battery was crucial over the course of that Grand Prix, and I mean, were you sort of thinking of any threat behind that last lap? Were you thinking you might see Harrison make like a late move, try and steal it at all, or?
I was, to be honest, I think originally I thought I'll stick behind him to get the boost, and then I thought I had a bit extra to kind of to go for it, so I just went for it and hoped that I could just keep in front. And then as soon as I crossed the line for the final lap and seen how far back Harrison was, I just kind of saved and burned on the straights and seemed to work. So.
Obviously, a big thing for you today being obviously finishing in front of Dan, 10 points gained on the championship leader, and a big 25 gained on Grumio in second place, which to my count puts you 42 points behind in the standings. Is that a gap you feel confident you can try and close in the second half of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just going to do what I'm doing. I think I've definitely had a little bit more practice this week, so I think I just need to put the time in, and it seems to work out. So yeah, definitely.
So practice means perfect then going forward for Huff, your winner here today at Silverstone. And we'll come now to the runner-up, Harrison, who put in a valiant effort, but in the end comes home in second place. Harrison, fantastic race all the same, mate. With one more lap, do you think you could have passed him, or is Huff a bit too strong today?
It was a bit too strong. I just ran out of grip on the tyres towards the end there, hence the gap on the final lap. To be honest, like before we even got into qualifying the race, I thought I wouldn't be getting on the podium, just because of how awkward the battery is around this track. But obviously, when I saw it was wet in qualifying, I was like, it brings me back to the wet weather we had in China quite a few races ago. So I knew I was strong that I could get a decent grid position, and then obviously in the race, to be obviously matching Huff and the rest of the guys, I was just kind of gobsmacked with it, but I'm happy where I'm finished now.
So helping you to maintain a P4 in the Drivers' Championship. 2 straight podiums for you now. Is there... looking forward to Belgium next week. Is that a track you feel like you can try and get another one?
Yeah, hopefully. Like I've raced around Belgium before on this game, so I know what I need to do with the battery. But again, it's like Silverstone. You just got to save your battery and deploy where you can.
So it's had to keep an eye out for going into next week. Of course, again, a circuit that could be quite battery heavy. But Harrison, again, valiant runner-up and definitely as deserving of the win today as Huff was. But in the end, there can only be one winner. And Harrison comes up P2. Coming down to HP Cook, who perhaps put in one of the more impressive drives of his RDL career. P4 for Cook at the flag from P16 on the grid. Cook, mate, did you see that coming at all from qualifying?
No. I kind of messed up quali. Both me and Ben decided to try and get new winters and completely messed it up. We had the Ferrari pit crew, so yeah. Oh, sorry, actually no. In real life now it's Tadlac in it. It has the slowest, so we had the Tadlac pit crew. But no, I didn't. I knew I'd be quick. I've done races around Silverstone and other leads before, so I knew what my pace would sort of be like. But I didn't expect to be as quick as I was and battling in around where I actually finished in P4.
I mean, the points will help you jump in for P5 in the championship. So that fight looks to be quite close going into the next race in Belgium. But of course, we'll look towards the constructors. The gap there, you open things up by 2 points over Williams by my count. Are the Williams cars sort of the ones to keep an eye out for in terms of threatening a V car for position?
No, we're not worried about anybody. You know, we know our own skills. We know where we might struggle, where we might do well. But it's as I say every week, we're not going to put one step in front of the other. We'll all look at it come Brazil and see who we're fighting. But if other teams want to look at standings and think about who they're fighting, that's on them. But that's not what we're going to do.
And my last question: Will I ever get any fighting words out of you at all, Cook?
Not until probably around, like I said, around Mexico, Brazil. I've had a good start to the season. Well, good first half, really. And obviously, we've got Belgium next week. I think I started in every race but two. For one, I did 10 up and one, I finished 11th. So, like I said, it's just doing one race after the other, keep up the points, and at the end, just see where I end up.
Well, hopefully keeping the points and the good times rolling over at VCAR. But P4 for Cook today here at Silverstone. Coming now to 10th Cannon, who gets himself back in the points with the P6 finish. 10th, fantastic race today, as always. But obviously, quite competitive up there in the sort of mid-points playing places. Do you feel like you could have got more from that at all, or was that the best you could do?
Nah, that's probably about the best I could do. It was kind of tough trying to balance battery and not losing out to everyone else. It felt very much like a NASCAR super speedway, if you've ever seen those. One car would get out the front, and then because of the whole battery thing, they drop back. It's kind of similar to that in a way, but with less carnage.
As we saw towards the end, tyre wear was a particular concern for a number of drivers. We had 2 cars go down with punctures at the very end of the race. Was there any concern from your end on that front?
I didn't realize the tyres were wearing out until like 2-3 laps to go when the warning came up on my dashboard. I think I ended the race with maybe like 72-75% tyre wear. I did not know it was an issue until the game had to tell me that it was an issue.
Well, I mean, sometimes ignorance is bliss in that sense. But I mean, if we look back sort of over the sort of the last sort of, let's say 7 races or so. I mean, you still think that's not the season where you're sort of struggling to score points, but now you've scored in 5 of the last 6 Grand Prix. The only outlier being the 12th place finish at Monaco. Is the sky the limit in that sense, or is the limit still P4?
Monaco didn't happen. Monaco's not real. It's I don't know. It's like I've said every week. My goal, or not really my goal, but my mentality is do some practice in the week and then turn up on the day and see how I am. But I don't know. I have a good feeling about the rest of the season. I don't know if I could get another podium, but that's not going to stop me trying. I mean, thing is, anything can happen in the RDL. I mean, you might not. It might be tough to believe given the 11-time champion, possibly soon to be 12. But no, you never know who's going to turn up. You never know who's going to be fast. You never know who's going to be brutally murdered on lap 1. Yeah, it's a bit of a lottery sometimes. Sometimes you come out good, sometimes you don't.
I mean, you guys in McLaren have come out fantastically over the course of this first half. Do you still feel confident sort of doing your job to maintain the lead? I mean, it's gone up by 20 points today, thanks to AT spin.
Oh, absolutely. I feel very confident in not only my ability, but also Dan's, I think. I think he's gonna continue to be a strong contender for the driver's title, if not a shoe-in. Well, maybe not, given Grumio and his pace, but I definitely think he's a good candidate. And as for my side of the garage, I think I'm proud of how I've been, a consistent point scorer for kind of my entire career, but, well, I say entire career, for a lot of my career, but especially this season, I've been a consistent, like, high point scorer, like top 7, top 6, and I've got a bunch of 4th places, which I can't seem to get away from. But yeah, I'm proud of what I've done.
So good things so far from McLaren in the first half. Dan, 29 points in front in the Drivers' Championship, and McLaren 31 points clear of the Silver Arrows in second place in the Constructors, and hopefully more to come from that team. But we'll come here last of all to our 8th place finisher, JB, who of course winds up still in the points. But JB, that track limit penalty, would you want to have that back if you could? JB, can you hear us? Oh, this is awkward. JB,
any penalty or removal of his voice privileges?
Hello.
There he is.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Hey. Sorry. Yes. I'm aiming to get the penalty removed, so hopefully back to P7 because I did get a couple of unfair track limit warnings. But no, it was a good race and nice for both of the Williams to get in the points. It's been a while since that's happened.
Do you know what? I think we did say about that last week after Austria. Obviously, you P9, Lucky P12. I mean, you're still on top in terms of the sort of head-to-head driver fight, 1v1 with Lucky in the standings, but is that something you're sort of too concerned about at all, or is it just more sort of points for the team?
I think it's mainly points for the team. I mean, we're the only two who are actually remotely close to each other at the moment. I think everyone ahead and behind are quite a way off, so we're sort of just stuck in the middle. Yeah, no, it's good points. I mean, I think a couple of teams didn't score today. Ferrari were the main ones, so we've gained on them. Unfortunately, obviously, Alpine and Racing Bulls both did well, so not really gaining on them. But no, just a good day, and enjoyed the battles as well on track with Lucky in 10th and Curtis and everyone else. So yeah, good day overall.
You know what, Jamie, you've got a habit of sort of answering all my questions in one go, which I appreciate because it saves me asking. But I've only got one left here, and that would be sort of Belgium next week. How's that as a circuit in prospect for you guys at Williams?
Not sure. I mean, I would have said another bad track because it's slow downforce, but it seems to do okay this week. So I think I've always preferred Belgium over Silverstone. So maybe I can hold on to maybe a top 6 or something like that. But really, the aim is just to stay in the points because I've got a bit of a streak going now. So we'll try and keep that going.
Yep, 3 races in a row of point scores for JB and 4 times in his last 5. So plenty. Yep, going plenty to keep an eye out for. As Tenth said, Monaco isn't real, so we'll lead that there and ignore the P13. But yeah, still fantastic stuff from Williams as a team to double points for the first time in quite a while, as you say. And that will do it then in terms of the questions I have for everyone. So thank you guys for coming along to the interviews as always. And that'll do us then for our coverage tonight here in the Races Driving League from the British Grand Prix. Next Grand Prix, the Belgian Grand Prix, will take place on the 31st of August, last day of the month, and hopefully an exciting one in prospect around Spa-Francorchamps. So thank you all very much for watching. I've been Zach RC. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you all next time. Goodbye.